Here we are. You're a real estate agency or a real estate developer watching this video about the 6 steps on how to grow your real estate business. And you're probably watching this video because you're stuck in the same loop over and over again. You grow your business a little bit, you make profits, but you want to grow more. So you start investing it into a marketing company or another form of marketing, only to spend a lot of money and then lose it all again. Only to then return to everything that was working before. Your network, referrals, and using portals. Making all the money back that you lost and having money to invest again. You decide to try it again and invest into a lead generator, a marketing company, or you try to do it yourself. And the end result is the same. You invest a lot without anything in return. And you keep being stuck in this same loop over and over again. And at some point, you're done. And I completely understand you. And this must be frustrating. I speak to dozens of real estate agencies and developers every single month. And they come to me with this exact problem. But what if I told you it's not the fault of only the quality of the leads, or only your follow-up, or the fault of your team, or the fault of the specific marketing strategy? What if I told you it's the process? It's not only lead generation, it's client acquisition. And somewhere in the process, something is not working the way it's supposed to work. Whether it's the leads, whether it's the follow-up, whether it's the company structure, or your leadership skills. There are so many factors and variables that have an effect on if your marketing and sales is getting results or not. And for every company, it's different. But in the end, the process is not working. And the process is broken. And that's what I'm going to show you today. In this video, I'm going to explain the exact 6-step formula that we've created with Lead Estate to make sure that you generate leads, but also convert them into actual qualified appointments for your sales team to close deals. The entire process from A to Z that will exactly identify where your obstacles are. So before I even talk about the exact 6 steps in the growth formula, there's one thing that we need to talk about. When I speak to most real estate agencies or developers, they have big dreams and they want to achieve a lot with their company and grow their company. But there's one thing that 99% doesn't do, and that is being extremely specific on what their actual goal is. What I'm saying is, if you're not extremely specific on what the goals are that you want to achieve, and back these goals by clear KPIs and numbers, you are not able to implement the right processes to make sure that you hit that goal. We call this your point A and your point B. Your point A is where you are now, your current revenue, or the revenue that you did last year. Your point B is where you want to go. What is your goal? What is your target? How do you want your company to look like? Specifically, and not vague. But why is this important? Let me give you an example. A few months ago, I was visiting a real estate agency that did 500,000 euros in revenue last year. And I asked the question, how much revenue do you want to do this year? And he said, I think 1.5 million. So I asked, is this a specific goal that you've thought about? Or is this something that you just want? He answered with, yeah, it's 1 million. So I asked him the question, is it 1 million or is it 1.5 million? And there you could already see that he was not specific about his point B. So how can he align all his actions if he's not sure on where he actually wants to go? We finally settled on that he wanted to make 1 million euros in revenue this year. Meaning that the gap between last year and this year, the gap between point A and point B, is 500,000 euros. Now we're going to reverse engineer what is needed to make sure that we make an extra 500,000. If on average you make 50,000 euros per deal and you want to do an extra 500,000, we need to do 10 extra deals this year to make sure we reach that goal, on top of what you're already doing. My next question was, how much sales appointments do you need to do to make sure you can close one deal? At first, he didn't really know, which is the first problem, because you always want to know your numbers. After looking into all the numbers, we realized that he needed 5 appointments to close one deal. If we need to make an extra 10 deals on average to get to 500,000 extra per year, and the closing rate is 20%, That means that we need to create an extra 50 appointments this year to make sure that we hit that goal. Let's say the show-up rate is about 66%. That means that we need to schedule 75 sales meetings, of which 50 people actually show up. But this is not where it stops, because we can reverse engineer even more. When we at Lead Estate work with clients, on average, about 20% of all of our leads convert into an appointment. That means that we need to generate an extra 375 leads this year. So the only thing that we needed to do now is to figure out what the cost of a lead is, whether it's from online advertising, whether it's from organic marketing, from portals, from your network, etc. And then we know exactly which marketing budget we need to spend to make sure we hit that goal. At the end, when we figured this out, the founder looked at me and he was blown away. He had never realized that it can be so simple. He just never made the time and he never slowed down to actually focus on the numbers and reverse engineer what he actually needed to do to make sure to hit his goals. So this is exactly why it's so essential that you're extremely specific on your point B and then reverse engineer all the numbers so you know exactly where to put your time, energy, and money in order to reach that point B. So now you might think, it all sounds so simple. I wish it was that easy. And I completely agree with you. And that is exactly why we've created the 6-step growth formula for you to implement everything the correct way by focusing on the entire process and not just the leads. But I can't explain you how to make it work if you're not clear on point B. Write down your point A, write down your point B, and slow down on the numbers and what the gap is between A and B for you to then reverse engineer what you need to do. I assume that you've done this exercise and that we can really take a look at how to implement the exact process to make sure that you hit that point B. But now that's clear, let me show you how to actually achieve it. As you can see next to me, this is how the exact growth formula looks in practice. This process might seem overwhelming for now. To not make it overwhelming and again, make it very simple, we've broken all of this down into 6 simple steps. Generate, relationship management, outreach, winning deals, tracking data, and high standards. Each of these 6 steps will focus on one specific element in the entire process. But it's extremely important to know that if you skip one of these steps, it will have a massive negative impact on the eventual results. During this video series, we are going to cover each of the 6 steps separately and tell you exactly what you need to focus on, what to do, and especially what not to do, to make sure that you operate as efficient as possible in each of the 6 steps. And by going through these steps, you will be able to identify the exact obstacles that you are facing in your business. Maybe the leads that you generate are quality, but your team is just not following up. Maybe your process is just too chaotic and you have no idea what's actually happening in your business. Or maybe it's as simple as you're not spending enough money on advertisement. And it is my goal that at the end of this video series, you will be able to exactly identify which obstacle it is for you, so we can make an impact on your business so you can grow to your point B. I'm looking forward to take you on this journey and explain everything in the next coming videos. But remember, I can't make an impact if you don't do the work. So make sure you get clear on your point A and point B before you continue to the next video. Because without your point B, you can't be specific in what you need to do to reach it. Welcome to step 1 of the growth formula. Generate. 95% of real estate agencies and developers have no idea where the next deal is going to come from. It's unpredictable, unmeasurable, and inconsistent. And I understand it's frustrating. You put in your best effort to deliver the best possible service. And sometimes you get 3 new deals in a month. But other times you're waiting for 2 months without a deal. And as the real estate industry is in general an unpredictable business with a long-term sales cycle, it is our mission at Lead Estate to make this as predictable as possible. And that's why in this video I'm going to share exactly how to generate leads consistently and predictably to make sure that you always have a pipeline full of leads for your team to follow up, build relationships with, and close deals. When I speak to real estate agencies or developers, usually I see two types of situations. The first situation is where they are doing extremely well. They're delivering a great service and they have a big network, and all their deals are coming from network and referrals. Sometimes they use portals or exhibitions, but in general, it's all word of mouth. And word of mouth and referrals are the most powerful way of marketing. People already trust you, like you, and your closing rate is a lot higher. However, by only being dependent on network and referrals and word of mouth marketing, you have the risk of inconsistency and unpredictability in your business. And that is really when you see the waves of 3 deals in 1 month and then 3 months of no deals. And this can cause stress and frustration, which I completely understand. So for this first situation, it's extremely important that there's a process in place that will make sure that you generate a specific amount of leads, appointments, and deals per month in a predictable way. And you can do this by implementing the right marketing or lead generator systems. And that brings us to situation 2. Which are the real estate companies that are aware of this problem. They are aware that if they're only dependent on their network and referrals and word of mouth to close deals and to grow their business, they know that this is very unpredictable, even though they see the value in this. They understand that they need to invest into marketing or systems to make sure that they also get leads outside of their network, to grow their business and to expand their network even more. So they start investing into marketing, working with a marketing agency, investing into portals, into leads, into exhibitions, and different types of strategies like organic marketing, paid marketing on Google, SEO, Facebook and Instagram marketing, LinkedIn, and much more. And in 95% of the time, this results in spending a lot of money and getting nothing in return. So I want to ask you if you're currently in situation 1 or situation 2. If you're currently only dependent on network and referrals and you don't have a system in place, then you're in situation 1. And it's important that you start implementing a system. If you currently are implementing a system to generate leads outside of your network, whether you're getting results, whether you are not getting any results, or just want to improve the efficiency, then you are in situation 2. And in this video, I will explain exactly why what you're doing is not efficient and is not working. So on the one hand, you always want to implement a system like the companies in situation 2. However, in 95% of the cases, it's not getting the results that you want or even losing you money. And the main reason for not getting results is because you're not focused on the system. You're focused on the leads and what the specific numbers are that this marketing system has to achieve. At Lead Estate, we mainly focus on Facebook and Instagram paid advertising. But there are numerous of ways that you can generate leads, whether it's organic marketing, paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram, whether it's SEO, Google advertising, or LinkedIn. But what I see happening all the time is that whenever a real estate company invests in either one of these methods, they are simply not committed. They are trying instead of testing. And I hear it all the time. We're trying this now. We're trying to do ads. We're trying organic. Or we're just posting because we have to post. There's no specific thought process or specific strategy behind it. So let's take the example of online marketing through Facebook and Instagram, what we do at Lead Estate. In the last video that you see here, we spoke about getting from point A to point B. And we reversed engineer everything that we needed to do to make sure that we hit our goal of creating an extra 500,000 in revenue. If you haven't watched this video, make sure you watch this before continuing. But in this video, we reverse engineered that we need 375 leads extra in 1 year with specific conversion metrics that will convert those leads into a revenue of 500,000 extra per year. So whenever you implement a process, whether it's Facebook and Instagram advertising, whether it's Google, whether it's organic, all the processes that you implement should lead to 375 leads. So let's take the example of Facebook and Instagram or Meta advertising. We need to generate an extra 375 leads. Of those leads, 20% need to convert into an appointment. And of those appointments, 66% needs to show up, which is 50 shows. And of those 50 shows, 20% needs to close into a deal. So if we go back to needing to generate 375 leads, we have to take a look at the process that we're actually implementing. At Lead Estate, we track all the numbers. So we know that on average, our cost per lead is between 30 to 50 euros, depending on which side of the market you are on, whether it's luxury or not luxury. But I always like to look at the conservative numbers, so that we usually are a little bit lower. If we need to generate 375 leads and we have a maximum cost per lead of 50 euros, so 375 leads times 50 euro cost per lead is 18,750 euros. By calculating these numbers, we have the exact marketing budget for you to make sure that you close 10 deals, if you hit these conversion numbers. If not, we might need to make some changes. Let's say you've calculated you need around 20,000 euros in advertising budget, and we have 8 months left in the year. That means you need to spend 2,500 euros per month for the next 8 months to make sure that you hit your goal. Keep in mind that we have a long-term sales cycle in real estate and that some deals can close later. And in this video, I'm really showing you the importance of your point B. Because what I see all the time is that real estate agencies and developers, they're spending money on marketing without actually realizing, okay, what does that marketing budget actually need to return? And what are the conversion metrics that we need to reach? And this is the biggest problem in why you are not generating profitable results with your marketing. So whether it's organic marketing, whether it's paid marketing, whether it's Google, whether it's going to exhibitions, we need to be specific. So let me give you a few other examples. So imagine instead of doing paid marketing, your strategy to create an extra 500,000 per year, your strategy to reach your point B, is by going to an extra 5 exhibitions per year. If you're unclear about your goals, you're going to your exhibitions, you're going to talk to a few people, you're going to get a bunch of leads, and you're going to call them without any specific goal in mind. But let's look again to the goals that we've set. We need to generate an extra 375 leads. If you go to 5 exhibitions this year, that means that you need to generate 75 leads per exhibition. Now you have a specific goal in mind when you're actually going to the exhibition. Imagine the expedition is 3 days long. That means that you need to generate 25 new leads every day at the exhibition. I hope you're realizing how being specific will actually lead to results. Because if you're specific, you know that if the day is almost over and you only have 20 leads, that you need to do something else to make sure that you get those extra 5, to make it aligned with your goal. I can also give the same example for organic marketing. What I usually see is that real estate agencies and developers, they just post just to post, without actually thinking, how can I reach as many people as possible? How can I inform as many as people as possible? And how can I get as much followers? But the most important question, how can I turn those into actual leads? So if you're just posting just to post, you are spending time, money, and energy into something that is pretty unclear. Organic marketing and posting on social media is a long-term strategy. So instead of just posting, why don't you sit down with a specific growth marketer who is specialized in growing your organic channels? Not just a random general marketing company that is just going to post a few times per week, but a specific growth marketer who has the experience and the results and the proof of concept that he's actually able to generate a lot of followers, generate a lot of leads through organic marketing, and only work with someone that is able to prove it. In that case, you could tell to this person, we need to set a goal of generating 375 leads through organic marketing this year. So that means, okay, how much content do I need to make? How much people do I need to reach with my content? How much followers do I need to create? And how much people do I need to respond to my posts? Or how much people do I reach out to on Instagram every single day to make sure that I get 375 leads? And that is how you create a specific strategy related to a goal. With these 3 examples, I hope you've been able to see how important it is to exactly reverse engineer how much leads you need to generate in order to hit your goal. Because without seeing how much leads you need to generate, you have no idea which action steps you need to take and which specific strategy you need to build to make sure that you hit those 375 leads, which will, according to the right conversion numbers, convert into 500,000 per year. And by not implementing this, you leave so much money on the table. And real estate companies are simply not getting results because they're not specific on this. So whatever lead generation method you choose, whether it's only one, or whether it's all at the same time, if you have tens of thousands per month on budget to spend, the principle applies to all. And the problem with 95% of real estate companies is that they go and work with a general marketing agency or a lead generator, or they're going to invest in a process without specifically knowing these numbers. So how can the marketing agency or how can the lead generator know what they need to perform and where to strive for if you are not even clear about your own numbers? So this is how you generate leads to predictably grow your company, and not just generate leads without any clear goal in mind. So maybe you were hoping that I would tell you a specific method on what to do or a specific secret on how to generate the best quality leads. But it all starts here. I can talk thousands of hours about how to implement the right strategies on Facebook and Instagram marketing. However, that is not the message that I want to share here. The main message in growing your company and not being stuck in the same loop over and over again is that first you need to stop being only dependent on network and referrals, even though it's working and even though it's one of the best ways of attracting clients. In order to scale more fast and predictably, you need to set up a predictable system that generates a specific amount of leads, a specific amount of appointments, and a specific amount of deals for you to predictably go towards your point B. But the problem that 95% of real estate agencies and developers face is that they implement this process without results. And that can have many different causes. But the main cause that I see is not being specific in what you actually need to achieve. So I can talk hours and hours about what specific strategies to implement, but this is what you need to focus on first. And in the coming videos where I explain more of the specific steps in the growth formula, everything is going to get more clear and clear. But there's one thing that I do want to mention about generating leads. Generating leads is the first step, but it's usually what people see as the main thing. It's all about generating leads, generating as much leads as possible. But this is what I see happening all the time. You work with a marketing agency and they generate hundreds of leads. Or you try strategies on your own, generating a lot of leads. However, in real estate, there are a lot of window shoppers and tire kickers. People that are not serious. So what a lot of times happens is that people or marketing companies celebrate a low cost per lead. They say things like, we spend 2,000 euros per month on advertising budget and we only got a cost per lead of 5 euros. And they say that this is good. Or they say, last month the cost per lead was 6 euros and now the cost per lead is 5. We're doing a lot better. But this is totally false, and it will become more clear in the next videos. Because a cost per lead is completely irrelevant. The cost per lead is only relevant to the conversion rate from lead to appointment, and eventually the conversion rate from appointment to deal. So if you're generating a cost per lead of 5 euros, and you spend 2,000 per month on marketing budget, you're generating 400 leads per month. Imagine how difficult it is for you or your team to follow up with 400 leads. So your follow-up is inefficient, your team is not even motivated to call these leads because maybe only 2% of these leads convert, which means you need to call 50 people to set one appointment. You might as well start knocking doors. So what you're going to understand in the next videos is that the cost per lead is completely irrelevant. It's only relevant if you connect it to the conversion rate. So I can talk about how much leads to generate and the specific strategy that you need to use. But in the end, every step in this process is connected. And you need to know how every step works and how everything connects before you actually start implementing a specific strategy. So to conclude this video, there's a few things that you need to know. If you don't have a process in place and are only dependent on network and referrals, make sure you start implementing a system and a process. If you have implemented a system, but you are not getting the results that you want, then I would advise you first to take a look at all the other videos that are coming in this series. And one thing that you can already start focusing on is that you don't want to celebrate a cheap cost per lead or calculate the number of clicks or website visitors. Keep in mind that the quality of the lead is always connected to the conversion rate of that lead. So if you currently have a process in place, which I'm really happy about, that you already know that you should implement a process to grow your business predictably, but it's not working because you're generating too much low quality leads, this is the exact problem that we're going to solve in the rest of the series. So make sure you keep watching the rest of the videos and take notes, as it's our goal to make as much impact in your real estate business as possible. Welcome to step 2 of the growth formula, relationship management. A lot of times when I speak to real estate agencies or developers, they are always looking for the next best thing, or the biggest secret to generate the highest quality leads, or the best strategy that they need to implement. They're looking for some sort of shortcut on how to get results fast for cheap, but meanwhile ignoring all the basics and ignoring the foundation. And the foundation of growing your real estate business and the foundation of your marketing and sales process is your CRM system. And most of the time, agencies and developers are simply not using the CRM system like they're supposed to, and that is costing them hundreds of thousands in revenue. I'm going to show you why and how agencies and developers are not using a CRM system in the most optimal way, and how to actually do it. Because the biggest problem that I see in the whole system of generating leads and closing deals, we're simply not following the basics. That's it. If you follow the basics, you will grow your company. So stop looking for the next best thing or the newest tool or the newest secret and start implementing the basics. So let's dive in and take notes. There's a few things that I see with real estate companies all the time. One, they actually don't have a CRM system at all. And no, spreadsheets is not a CRM system. They use their spreadsheets. They do everything on paper, or they just don't even keep track of anything. That is the first problem. The second thing is that they have a CRM system, but it usually doesn't have all the features that it actually needs to make sure that we convert leads into appointments and deals. I'm referring mainly to a lot of real estate CRM systems that are mainly focused on the service delivery and the client management, and maybe the communication between client and company. But they're usually not optimized for marketing, conversion, and sales. So they're using a CRM system, but because it doesn't have all the features, you're also losing a lot of leads. The third situation, what I see, is that they actually have a CRM system and they have a properly functioning CRM system with all the tools that it needs, but they're simply not using it. And for most of the real estate companies that I speak to, the third is the case. If you're not using your CRM system, you're basically gonna lose track of all of your leads, when to follow up, when to reach out to someone, what you've said, what to talk about next time. And you basically are losing leads and deals to competitors. And here's why that's a problem. So the biggest problem is that you're simply not using the basics. You're just not using the CRM system properly. Whether it's you or whether it's your agents not filling in the data, it's not that you don't have a CRM system, it's that you're not implementing it into your protocol and into your processes and demanding from your team that they use it properly. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to follow up with leads. But before we talk about when to follow up and what to say, if you don't have an overview of all your leads and potential clients, how can you expect to grow your real estate business predictably? So if we look at all the three situations, if you don't have a CRM system, start implementing a CRM as soon as possible. The second step is to make sure that the CRM system that you are implementing or have implemented actually has the tools and the systems available that you need to make sure that you convert as much leads into appointments and deals. And third, make sure you actually use it. So why is it so important to have a CRM system in the beginning? And if you're watching this and you think, yeah, but I only generate a few leads per month, I don't have that big of a company, or I only generate a maximum of 30 new leads per month, I don't need to have a CRM. That is a limiting belief. And you always need to have a CRM. Because the person that's going to say to you, I want to buy within the next year, you're going to forget about this person. And in a CRM, you can keep track of this person until the end of time. So even if you have a low volume of leads or a small company, a CRM system is essential. Because even if the CRM will help you remind that you need to follow up with one specific person, that becomes a deal in 1 or 2 years, it's already worth it. And as you know, a deal in real estate is all in the details. So now we've established that you need a CRM, however big your company is or however much leads you generate. What does an effective CRM system actually need? First of all, it's very important that your CRM system gives you an overview of all the leads and potential clients that you've generated. You need to create a digital database of all the people that your company has interacted with in the past. Because if you create this database, you will be able to reach out for free with email, SMS, and calling to everyone in this list until the end of time. You're basically building your entire client list that you will never lose again. You can send all of your marketing emails and messages to this list whenever you want. And from this database, you can operate and close deals on the long term, which will exponentially grow your business. The second step is to separate the long-term leads and old clients from the new leads and the new potential clients on the short run, let's say within the next 6 months. And for these leads, we need a specific pipeline. We need a pipeline with certain columns and specific steps on when a new lead comes in, how much times you have already called and followed up with the lead, when you have a callback appointment, when you have scheduled an appointment, when you need to reach out on the long term, when someone is in the process of viewing houses, when someone is in the process of signing the contract, and when you've closed the deal. So you know exactly of all your potential short-term leads in which stage of the buying process they are, so you can keep an overview. Next to that, you need to be able to create notes and tasks, so you know exactly about what you have spoken with this lead. So you can note down all the information and create a task on when to call back. In an ideal situation, you would like to be able to call with the system and record all the calls for training, but also for your sales team to listen back to the calls and prepare for the sales meeting. These are the most essential tools that the CRM system needs for following up with leads, which we will cover in the next video. You also want to make sure that you're able to send emails and send WhatsApp or text messages with the system, and that you can see all of these messages inside. If you're using a different system to message people and call people, then you are operating in 2 systems and you create chaos. So make sure that it's possible in the CRM that you have a pipeline, that you can send emails and text messages and connect WhatsApp and send out WhatsApp automations, because that is the main platform that people are using to communicate with their friends or people that they potentially want to work with. And that's exactly where you want to show up. But this is what we will cover during the next video about reaching out to leads. Then there's another extremely important part of the CRM system, and that is implementing automations. If you don't have a CRM system, you are unable to reach out within 1 minute. But if you implement automations, after someone has filled in a form or after someone has reached out to you, you will be able to send an email or send a text message or WhatsApp immediately. So if you don't have a CRM system, or you're using spreadsheets, or you do everything on paper, you are already signing up for a lower conversion rate because you're not reaching out to these people as soon as possible. And you lower the client experience by taking a long time to respond. It's also possible that you already have a CRM system, but simply the automations that are in there are just very limited. In that case, you are limiting your own conversion rate as well, because you're not able to send out the right automations at the right time. And these are the simple basics that a CRM system needs to have. But there's also extra things that will massively increase the results by having these tools in your CRM system. Think about calendar connection, AI implementation, scheduling social media posts, creating landing pages, creating forms and surveys, and even creating contracts. But here is the most important thing in a sales CRM. You need to be able to track data. And this is something that we'll cover in a next video. But if your CRM system is not able to track specific marketing, sales, and conversion data, then you're limiting yourself in the ability to optimize your marketing process. So make sure that all of the tools and all of the things that I just mentioned are part of your CRM system. Because if you don't have these in your CRM, that has a massive negative impact on the results you achieve. Throughout this video, you've seen screenshots of the specific tools that I mentioned that a CRM system needs. And these are screenshots from the Lead Estate CRM system that we implement for our clients worldwide. And if you want to know more about this system, feel free to reach out. But as I said in the beginning, usually the biggest problem with real estate companies is not that they don't have a CRM system. Most of them have a CRM. It's still better than using no CRM system. However, the biggest problem in not using this foundation properly is by not executing on it, by not actually implementing the specific things and the specific protocols into your processes, into your team, to actually use the CRM properly. The biggest reason for real estate companies to lose out on deals to competitors is because of an inefficient follow-up process and an inefficient way of simply not using the CRM system properly, whether it's yourself, whether it's your agents, or your entire sales team. And that is exactly what we will cover in the next video in this series, which is all about how to follow up and reach out to new and existing leads to make sure that they are converted into appointments. And this next video will tie directly into this video because your CRM system and your follow-up process work as one. So make sure you implement the CRM, make sure that it has all the tools that you need, and make sure that you use it according to protocol on a daily basis, because that is the foundation that the growth of your company requires. Welcome to step 3 of the growth formula. Outreach. The biggest reason why real estate agencies and developers are not closing deals and they're not hitting their revenue goals is because of a broken follow-up process. It is the most important thing in your entire business. It is the heart or the motor of your business, and still agents and agencies and developers are simply not doing it, and it's costing them millions. At Lead Estate, we do around 20 business audits per week, and 95% of the time the follow-up process is inefficient, inconsistent, and infrequent. And in 95% of the times, these businesses are losing deals to competitors. They're leaving deals on the table simply because they're not using the CRM properly and are simply not following up with leads enough. In this video, I'm going to solve this problem once and for all. In my experience, real estate agencies and developers know what to do. They know how to follow up. They know how many times they need to follow up. And they know how they need to use the CRM system. But the biggest problem is the following. You, as the owner, are simply accepting that it's normal for agencies or yourself not to follow up. You prioritize other things, which I understand. If a client wants to view a house, you need to go. If your biggest client needs you now, you need to respond to him. But that does not mean that you need to sacrifice your follow-up. And in most cases, it's simply because you are accepting this within your company. Let me give you an example. Recently, I visited a potential client, a luxury real estate agency, and I asked the question, how many agents do you have? He mentioned that he has 5 agents working at his company. And I asked the question, is every one of your agents following up consistently and frequently enough and getting the maximum out of your leads? And he laughed and said, of course not. I looked at him and I thought, that's strange. And I asked him, why do you accept that it's normal for your agents not to follow up consistently? And he's like, yes, they have other things to do and they don't always follow up. And I said, why are they working at your company? And this may sound harsh, and I'm not telling you to fire all of your agents that are not following up with leads. What I am telling you is that in most of the cases, this is the normal situation in real estate businesses. But before I continue and explain everything that you need to create an efficient and high converting follow-up process, I need you to make one commitment, not to me, but to yourself and your business. And this commitment is, from now on, it's unacceptable within your company to not follow up with leads according to protocol. Whether it's you following up, which can be quite confronting because it's your responsibility, or it is your team that you need to keep accountable. So, from now on, you've made the commitment that it's unacceptable for people in your business, including you, to not follow up with leads. I can explain everything that you need to know about an efficient follow-up process. If you do not make this commitment, it's completely worthless. So now, let's dive straight into the things that you need to implement in order to create an efficient follow-up process. First of all, what is the goal of follow-up? The goal of follow-up is to determine the quality of the lead. A cost per lead is completely irrelevant. If I generate 500 leads and they all fill out in a form that they have enough budget, they want to buy now, or they want to sell now, and they want to schedule an appointment. That seems like 500 quality leads. But if none of them answer, or if everyone that you speak to has no idea that they filled out the form, the leads are worthless. So the quality of the lead is only dependent on how much leads actually convert into qualified appointments of people that have the budget, want to buy or sell within maximum 6 to 12 months, and that they actually want to talk to an agent or a sales professional. That is the first thing that you need to understand. The second goal of the follow-up process is to convert as many leads into qualified appointments. And you do this by being consistent and frequent. So how do we achieve these two goals of determining the quality of the lead and scheduling as much qualified appointments from these leads? Well, there's two things that are extremely important. First of all is we need to speak to as many people as possible. We need as much leads as possible to actually reply or pick up the phone. The second thing is that we need to convert as much of these people that we actually speak to into appointments, which leaves us with two metrics: the response rate and the conversion rate. At Lead Estate, we work with over 50 clients worldwide, and we track all this data. So what are the KPIs and what are the numbers that you should focus on? In order to achieve the maximum amount of results, you need a pickup rate or a response rate of around 70%, which is already high. So focus between 60 to 70% pickup rate and you're doing really well. Then you want a minimum of 15 to 20% of the leads to actually convert into an appointment. If this is lower, you know exactly where to optimize. So now you have these two KPIs in mind, and you now know exactly what you need to focus on. So let's focus now on what you need to implement and what protocol you or your team needs to follow to make sure that you actually hit these numbers. At Lead Estate, we follow up with leads for our clients. And here are a few standards that we hold our team accountable to and that we expect clients to follow. And in this video, if you have decided to not accept any poor follow-up anymore within your company, you should follow these standards too. The first rule is consistency. You need to follow up consistently. Not once every week or whenever you have time. You need to follow up every single day. You need to make this a process in your business. And I understand, as a real estate agent or an agency, it's very difficult because your agents are running around everywhere, talking to clients, showing viewings, building relationships, closing deals. But it's essential that they set aside time every single day to follow up with leads and make this time in their calendar a non-negotiable. No meetings, no viewings, no answering emails, 1 hour of dedicated follow-up every single day. The second rule is frequency. You don't only want to follow up consistently, but you also want to follow up enough times to actually reach people. So not only following up 1 time or 2 times within 1 week. No, you need to follow up with every new lead up to a minimum of 6 to 10 times. This is essential. What we've noticed in the data that if we follow up a few extra times, that our pickup rate increases and therefore also our conversion rate from lead to appointment increases. And this is essential. There's one big limiting belief that I get all the time. I don't want to annoy them. I don't want to push too much. These people have responded to an advertisement. These people have responded to a form on your website. These people want to be called. They want you to reach out. I hear more times from leads of our clients that they appreciate us for reaching out because most real estate agencies don't reach out to them. They don't come back to them and they don't hear anything. So get this limiting belief out of your system right now and start calling a minimum up to 6 to 10 times and call minimum 1 time every day. The third rule is speed. Every new lead you want to call within 1 hour of them entering your CRM system. At the moment when someone fills in a form or responds to your website, they are in a buying state. They are in a state in their mind where they are really interested about something. If you wait too long, they forget and they go on with their daily activities. So make sure that every lead is called as soon as possible and ideally within the first 15 minutes. I know that this can be difficult sometimes, so focus on that you reach out to every new lead within 1 hour. The fourth rule is long-term follow-up. The reason why most real estate agencies and developers lose out on deals. And the way that they are losing the most amount of their revenue is by not following up on the long term. You're probably in this business for the rest of your life. And real estate has a long-term sales process. And I understand. I also only want to focus on people that are interested now, that I can build a relationship with now, and that want to buy now. However, most people take about 6 to 12 months to actually decide and sign a contract and actually buy a property or sell that property. And if you do not follow up on the long term, you are going to lose these clients, which is the majority of your clients. And the majority of your deals are closed in the long-term follow-up. So it's essential that you use your CRM system, create tasks, and get reminded on when to follow up on the long term with your leads. I've seen real estate agencies lose millions because they didn't implement a long-term follow-up strategy. And rule number 5, if you are not able to follow the first 4 rules, implement an inside sales agent. An inside sales agent is one person following up with all the leads to then schedule the qualified appointments into your sales agent's calendar, which for you as the owner makes everything more easy. The agents are more motivated because they only speak to really interested people that they can build relationships with and close deals. You only have one person to keep accountable. One person can actually improve his or her skills and increase the conversion rate. And it's easier to track all the data and see the exact performance of the follow-up process. And this is the biggest impact that we make for clients at Lead Estate. Going from an inefficient and chaotic follow-up process to implementing one single sales agent who's only responsible for following up with leads and converting as much of these into qualified appointments. To end this video, I want to give you an exercise. An exercise to completely audit and review your entire follow-up process. And ask yourself a few questions. How much times am I following up with leads? How fast am I following up with leads? Am I following up with leads on a daily basis? How much revenue have I lost because I didn't follow up on the long term? How many agents are following up with leads at the same time? And the last question, I want you to make a list of all of your agents or all of the people that are following up with leads inside of your company and track and see how much percent of their leads are they following up with correctly. And then you can give each of your agents a score. In the most ideal world, when you're already tracking your data, you also want to see how many appointments is every agent scheduling. And then you can see how many leads they followed up with and how many appointments they've set. And therefore analyzing the quality and the effectiveness of your team. And most likely you will see that you are wasting a lot of marketing budget just because you have an inefficient follow-up process. Do these exercises and make a commitment to this, because I will promise you that after realizing the actual performance of your follow-up process, you will start honoring the commitment that we've made in the beginning of this video and not accept poor follow-up anymore within your company. You will never know if you make a change in your marketing, what the change in the conversion rate is if you don't follow a specific follow-up process and if you don't know the actual conversion rate from lead to appointment. If everything is vague and you are accepting a poor follow-up process in your business, and that is the biggest reason why you're not growing your real estate business. Welcome to step 4 of the growth formula, which is winning deals. Let me ask you something. How many times have you been on a call with a lead and the only thing on your mind was, how do I close the deal? And that's the problem. Because the second a lead feels like you only care about the sale, they're gone. And here's what nobody in real estate wants to admit. Closing is not a technique. Closing is a result. It's the result of doing everything right up towards signing the contract. And at Lead Estate, we call this step winning deals. And it's step 4 in our growth formula. So today, I'm going to break down exactly what winning deals actually means, why most real estate agencies are losing deals they should be closing, and what you need to do differently starting today. Without deals, no ROI, no revenue, no profit, and no business at all. But most companies try to focus too much on selling instead of seeing selling as what it is, building trust and building relationships. The fact is that in real estate agencies or developers get paid once the sale is made. For new construction, agents get paid by the developer. So in theory, they work for the developer. And a lot of people feel like agents are biased, but clients always need to feel like you are the one that's helping them, that you work for them. You're helping them, not selling them. And this is the switch that you need to make. So in this video, I'm not going to talk about the perfect sales script or what to precisely say to your clients. I'm going to talk about what 5 most important areas to focus on if you want to actually close deals. It is essential to know that in all these 5 areas, you need to come from a place and mindset of helping instead of selling. And if you do this, you will build trust, build relationships, and close deals. The first category is the basics. And there is hundreds of basic things that I can outline here. Look presentable. Make sure you communicate clearly. Make sure you answer quickly. Make them feel like you're working for them. Have a personality that they can connect with and talk to as if you are their friend. Dress well. Make them feel like you are actually putting in the effort. Have a nice website. Have a great logo. And I can go on and on and on. I think you know as well what makes you presentable and which basics are important. But if you don't implement them, they are for sure gonna lose you deals. So take a look at all the details, all the basics. Are you actually focusing on that? The core purpose of having the basics right is that people judge you in a second. Within the first 5 seconds, they already know who they're talking to and they already have some form of judgment or feeling about you. So as I said, being presentable and having the basics right isn't gonna bring you deals, but it will for sure lose you deals because you have not implemented this. And if from the first moment of contact, looking at your website, seeing that you have a Gmail as email instead of a company email, seeing that you have a photo on your website with you holding a beer instead of a professional photo, the judgment is made instantly. And if people don't like what they see or don't feel good about it, they will go with another real estate company. The second category is positioning in the market. As you probably know, you probably have 1,000 competitors or even more. And in real estate, you're all selling the same thing. You're selling the same properties, the same projects, the same apartments, and the same service. So if everyone is selling the same properties, and if everyone's selling the same service, what do they buy? They buy you. They buy your company. Of course, you also should be the best, but keep in mind that in order to make the deal, you should be the best in their eyes. And all of that comes down to the right positioning. You want to position yourself in the market as a person that they can trust and build a relationship with, and a person and company that is there for them. And you can only position yourself in the right way for your prospect if you ask questions and know what they think is important. Let me give you an example. If you ask your prospect questions and actually listen, then you hear what they want and what they think is important. So if they, for example, tell you that in their experience from most real estate agencies, they didn't really feel like they were helped. They felt like the other real estate agent was biased and just wanted to sell them the deal. Then you need to position yourself as the opposite of that. But it also needs to be true. If you're a real estate agent that's also biased, that's also just there to sell them, then it's not going to work. You need to be authentic and you need to have integrity with what you're actually saying. But in this case, you want to position yourself as someone that they can trust, that is not biased, and that's actually there for them. And you don't do this by just telling it to them because, well, everyone can say this. It's all about the way you frame it. And the way you do that is by real-time stories. For example, you can share stories about what other agents in the market have done, which makes them untrustworthy. Not a specific agent, but in general. Stories that you've heard and that you think are ridiculous in your eyes. Because then you can follow that up with your philosophy. You say, yeah, what I've heard is this and this and this, and this has happened to other people. And to me, that's absolutely crazy, because what our core values are within our company is that we're here to serve you, right? You want to find the right property. It's not for me to just sell you any property and get the commission from the developer, because my business is all about word of mouth and referrals and making our clients happy. And some don't really feel that way. So that is why I believe it's so important that I will help you find the right home. This is just an example of what you could say to one of your clients. You always want to speak from your core values, your philosophy on the market, and basically what your philosophy is on helping people find the right home, compared to other negative experiences that your prospect has had. And then you come from helping, and you come from a place of what do you truly feel and why do you do what you do? Positioning is not putting on your website saying, yeah, we always respond fast and we are passionate about real estate and we are very personal. This is what everyone says. It's about the feeling that they have about how you position yourself in the market and what your philosophy is. It's not specific things. It's your entire outlook on the real estate market and why you do what you do. And of course, everyone can just say this, but you need to live it. They need to feel it. Because trust me, if you just say it but don't mean it, they will not trust you. For example, one of the next videos in this series will be about high standards. At Lead Estate, we preach high standards because we believe it's the core of everything that you do as a business. But what would happen if I would preach high standards to all of our clients, but actually don't operate according to high standards ourselves? Would they trust us? I don't think so. What I want you to do in terms of positioning yourself in the market is I want you to write down everything you don't like about what other real estate agencies or what your competitors are doing. That is not in the best interest of their clients and prospects. Then write down why you don't like this and why you feel like they should do it another way. Because then you really have an outlook on the real estate industry as a whole, what you see and what you feel about how this real estate industry operates in your local area and what you do and don't agree with. And everything you don't agree with, you create your own philosophy on what you do agree with and the way that you feel how real estate agencies or developers should actually operate in this area. And this way you create your own philosophy and your own positioning in the market. And that is what people buy. They buy your philosophy, they buy your way of thinking, and they buy with you because they feel like you are different from the rest. You are not like the other real estate agencies. You are not like the others. You are there for them. And that makes the entire difference. And then we come to the third category, which is social proof. This is really an extension of the last point, because you can say that you operate from a specific philosophy and specific morals compared to the rest of the industry. If you then don't deliver a service that is aligned with those morals and with that philosophy, then people will not have a good experience. But what you need to do is you need to tell them what you want to deliver and actually deliver it. It needs to be aligned. It is essential that what you tell in your marketing and your sales, that you actually deliver. And if you deliver an amazing service, that is when people are happy about you, refer you to others, and give reviews. And reviews and positive stories from others and from old clients are essential. Why? People are social creatures and people look at what other people do. If 100 people say that they're happy about this, then they trust this. If 100 people say, no, don't do this, this is not of quality, then people won't do it. And it's exactly the same in business. The more positive reviews and the more real reviews that you have with real people, on video, on Google reviews, on Facebook reviews, putting your reviews on social media, or even making videos with people that have bought from you and have had an amazing experience. The more real and tangible and the higher quantity and quality of your reviews, the more people will trust you and buy from you. A big part of real estate is referrals. Reviews and testimonials is the exact same, but then online, on social media and on your website. People buy what other people trust and like, because in their eyes, it's already proven that this service is of quality. So the more reviews, the more testimonials you put out there, and the more results that you put out there, the better. Especially if you're selling real estate investments, where you can literally show the yearly ROI and the return on people's investments. So the more you can back these reviews and testimonials with actual numbers and results, the more trust you create with your potential clients. At Lead Estate, we do the same. We actually fly out to clients that we got results for. We take a tour on their projects and we do podcasts and interviews with them, talking about our partnership and about our relationship. Not only is this extremely fun to meet our clients in person and to get to know them on a personal level, it also creates more trust for our potential clients than a simple review on Google, because they can really see and feel how we interact with clients and what the results are in a long form video. I'm not saying that if you sold a house that you should record a podcast with your clients. That's not really something that's common within real estate, or maybe even a bit staged, but it does give you an example of that you want your reviews and your testimonials to be as real and tangible as possible. So remember, people buy what people they like and trust. That brings us to the last two categories, and they're both combined. However, they're a bit different. The first three categories were more as a positioning and marketing and feeling standpoint. But these next two categories are all about action. And what I want to say is that you can have the basics right. You can have your positioning right. You can have all the social proof you want. But most deals are lost because of not following up on the long term. You need to keep following up with people over the long term. In real estate, you're simply dealing with a long-term sales cycle. For most people, buying a house or buying a property is one of the biggest expenses in their entire life. So they want to make a careful decision, and they won't make a decision within a few seconds. Sometimes you get a lead and it can take up to 6 to 12 months or even 2 years before they actually buy. And if you don't follow up on the long term, your competitors will. And there can be two main reasons why most real estate companies do not do the long-term follow-up. The first is a mindset problem. You come from selling instead of helping. And that's why you have a belief in your mind that when you reach out on the long term or when you follow up, that you feel like you're bothering them, that they don't want to be disturbed. And that's because you are selling, you're not helping. If you truly believe that you're the best agent for them and that there's all these other agencies trying to get a hold of them, trying to sell them, but you feel that you are the best for them, reaching out to them means that you're helping them choose the right real estate agent. The second reason is that you simply don't do the follow-up. You're busy with other things. You don't keep your agents accountable. You don't have a CRM system. There's no overview in your company. Or you simply accept that it's the standard within your company to not follow up with all the leads consistently. So if you don't do the long-term follow-up, you don't have anyone to show the basics to that you have implemented. You don't have anyone to talk about your positioning. You don't have anyone to show your results and show the social proof that you've built up. You need to get into contact with them. And it's your responsibility. Don't think, oh, if they really want to, they will reach out to me. People do what is easy, and if other agencies and other real estate companies reach out to them, that's who they go for. So you need to keep being top of mind and come from helping instead of selling. This brings us to category 5, which is all about after sales. And this ties directly into long-term follow-up, because what a lot of real estate companies do is that if they do the long-term follow-up, they stop after the deal is closed. But as I said before, real estate is a referral business. It's a relationship business. So that means that after the deal, after the sale, you want to keep improving and building this relationship with your old clients. If you treat every old client that you ever had as a friend that you regularly message, that you regularly check in with, not only on a business level, but also on a personal level, you are building extremely valuable relationships. Because not only do people buy a property multiple times in their life, they also have friends and family that also buy multiple times in their life. So building a relationship with one client could get you 2, 3, 4, or even more clients in the long run. And that's why you want to have specific strategies in place on a personal level for the after sales. Not only sending a newsletter every month or sending him an automated message after a year asking them how it is living in the new property. It's sending them a picture when you're in the stadium of a football team that your client loves. It's wishing them happy birthday. It's writing a handwritten note after a year after they bought the property. And if it's someone that's well connected, why not invite the person out for dinner after a few months or a year? There are so many things that you can do to build a relationship after the deal is done. Because if you keep being top of mind with people that have bought from you in the past, you are the first person that they think about when a friend or family tells them that they want to buy a property. So now we have covered all the 5 categories. I have a specific exercise for you to do. List all the 5 categories: the basics, positioning, social proof, long-term follow-up, and after sales on a piece of paper. And behind every category, I want you to write what you are currently implementing as a specific strategy and as part of a specific protocol that you're currently actively using inside of your company. Only write down the things that you're actually implementing in this category. Because most real estate agencies and most real estate companies, they know that these 5 things are important. They know that they should do them. But have you actually slowed down and taken the time to carefully review these 5 categories and integrate them as part of the protocol that you implement within your company? Once you've done that, I want you to write one thing in each category that you can implement that you currently haven't implemented yet. Just one thing, and start implementing that into your company and into your protocols. And make sure that your team actually executes on them. And after you've implemented them, you can do the same thing again. What's one thing that I can add in this process that will increase the trust and the relationships that you build with your clients to be able to help them better, which will result in closing more deals? Welcome to step 5 of the growth formula, which is tracking data. There's something I hear constantly from real estate agencies. The leads are bad, but how do you know? Is it based on feeling? Is it based on thoughts? Or is it based on exact data? Because in 9 out of 10 cases, when I sit down with a real estate business and ask them to show me their numbers, they can't. They don't know their cost per lead, they don't know their pickup rate, their lead to appointment conversion. They don't know their cost per appointment, their sales closing rate, or their return on advertising budget. And in some cases, they don't even know what they spend on marketing. They actually know nothing, except for the feeling that they are not getting results. And that is the real problem. You cannot fix what you cannot measure. And if you're not measuring all marketing and sales numbers, you're not optimizing, you're guessing. You're gambling with your marketing budget. And you're gambling with your business. Without tracking data, it's impossible to grow a business predictably. At Lead Estate, step 5 of our growth formula is all about tracking data. And I'll be honest with you, this is the step that separates the agencies and developers that grow from the ones that stay stuck in the same negative loop forever. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to track, why it matters, and what the numbers actually tell you. So let's get into the video. I speak to real estate agencies and developers every single day. And for 95%, the same is true. They are simply not tracking the data. And this is simply costing them leads, appointments, and deals. And on the other hand, we have companies convincing you that they are tracking the data, but actually not the data that will actually bring you results. They're only tracking vanity metrics. And tracking vanity metrics means tracking the numbers that actually don't really make an impact on your business or on optimizing the process. Vanity metrics are calculating the cost per click, the amount of clicks, how many website visitors, how many leads, how much leads you got compared to last week, how much website visitors you got compared to last week. I'm not saying that this data is completely irrelevant, but this data is only relevant if you can connect it to the sales data. I can generate you hundreds of leads, but what does it matter if they don't convert into appointments and those appointments don't convert into deals? Then every month you get a very nice summary of all the clicks and all the leads that are generated, but in the end it will result into nothing. For a marketing and sales process to work, it's essential that you track all the data, from cost per lead, to pickup rate, to conversion rate, to closing rate, to revenue generated, and to return on investment. And of course, not tracking your data will result in less deals. But in this video, I really want to make you understand why. Because it's not as simple as just converting less of your leads into appointments, but it's actually also about not being able to optimize the process based on real data, which will decrease your results from marketing even more. So what specific metrics do you actually want to calculate in order to create an effective process? Of course, it's true that the more you track, the better. But in this video, I'm going to cover the most important ones. First of all, you want to know your marketing budget, the exact budget that you're spending on your entire marketing or on advertising. Then you want to calculate your cost per lead, and therefore calculating how much leads you've generated as well. How much does it cost to generate one new contact? And then we move over to the follow-up process, following up with leads to schedule qualified appointments. And there's 2 metrics that are important there. First, it's the pickup rate. What percentage of the leads that you've generated has actually responded to you or picked up the phone? The second KPI that you want to track in your follow-up process is the actual conversion rate from lead to appointment. What percentage of leads actually converts into a qualified appointment with a prospect that's qualified on budget, time frame, and that they actually want to schedule an appointment and talk to you? What most marketing companies and lead generators do is they base the quality of the lead on the cost per lead. But what you need to do is base the quality of the lead on the conversion rate from lead to qualified appointment. And that makes all the difference. Imagine you generate 100 leads, and in the marketing form, all 100 people have said, I have a minimum of 500,000 budget, I want to buy within 6 months, and I want to schedule an appointment. What most marketing companies do is they say, hey, look, we have generated 100 quality leads. But when is a lead quality? When they've filled something out in a form, or when you confirm that what they filled out in the form is actually true. Because all these 100 people could not answer the phone or not be interested at all, and therefore you don't make any sales. So therefore the quality of the lead is measured by the conversion rate from lead to qualified appointment. You only know when a lead is qualified if you verify it by phone or by WhatsApp. Then we also want to track the sales data, which means tracking how many appointments actually turn into deals. And one metric that's essential is the show up rate, because I can schedule a lot of appointments in your calendar and say that they're qualified, but if none of them show up, then are they that qualified? And therefore you want to calculate the show up rate. Then from the show up rate, you want to calculate the closing rate. So how many people that have showed up for the appointment actually turn into a deal. And because of the long-term sales cycle in real estate, this can take a while to actually calculate perfectly, but it's essential to know how your team is performing. Imagine you have a real estate agency and you have 4 sales agents. How can you know who's performing best if you don't track this data? And maybe you realize that one of your sales agents is actually performing way better than the others, and one of your sales agents is not performing at all. Based on this data, you have some tough decisions to make. These are the 6 main KPIs that you want to track. However, there's an extra 7th that you want to track as well, which is the eventual ROI, the return on investment that you actually make from your marketing campaigns. How much have I spent? And how much revenue and profit did I actually get in return? This is the most essential, because why would you do marketing if you don't get a return on investment? And what I see happening all the time is that real estate companies do marketing based on a specific marketing budget that's based on the revenue that they made last year. And they say, hey, we have this much money for marketing. But the only thing that you actually need to do is spend money intentionally, making sure that you get a return on investment. Because if you get a return on investment on your marketing budget can be infinite. Because you know that for every €1 you spend, you get €10 back. That is the goal of client acquisition. So why do these metrics matter? Why does it matter? Why is it so important to track these KPIs and not just go with the flow? The first thing is that everything is connected. It's not marketing and sales, it's client acquisition. And your cost per lead and your conversion rate from lead to appointment has a direct influence on the return on investment that you're making. And by able to track all the data instead of just the vanity metrics, you can actually make decisions that are based on an entire process instead of just on cost per lead. Because like I said, the cost per lead is only relevant to the conversion metrics. I can generate a €10 cost per lead and celebrate that we have a cheap cost per lead. But if we only convert 2% of these leads into appointments, a cost per lead of €10 is not that good. But if you increase your cost per lead to, let's say, €50 and your conversion rate suddenly changes to 15%, that's when you have an effective process. And that's how you see that everything is connected. Another important point as to why it's important to track this data is if you don't track data, how can you know that when you make a change in your process, what the effect of that change is? So if I now have a conversion rate from lead to appointment of 10% and I make a change in the advertisement while keeping the same follow-up protocol, and suddenly my conversion rate goes up to 15%, then I know that this change in the advertisement has had a positive effect on our conversion numbers. But if you don't know this conversion number and you make a change in the advertisements, then you don't actually know if something has improved or not improved. Another very important reason on why you should track all this data is so that your sales team can actually give feedback to your marketing team. Because we already discussed that the quality of the leads are defined by the sales data, your marketing team should actually optimize their advertisements and optimize their marketing processes based on this sales data. So it's essential to give this feedback to the marketing team. Tracking data is also essential because you can actually see if you're off track or on track to hit the goals that you've set. In a previous video, we've talked about point A and point B and being extremely specific on that point B. Well, if you don't track data, how do you know if you're on track or off track to hit this point B? And if you're off track, based on this data, you can make corrections to make sure that you get on track again. And being on track or off track can also be in a specific area or a specific step in this process. And that is why tracking data also helps you to see how your team is performing and if they're actually following protocol. You can see if they're hitting their targets or underperforming and make your conclusions and decisions based on that. And lastly, if you don't track all this data while implementing a marketing and sales process, then you're probably too late when you find out that the process or a specific strategy is simply not working, wasting money in the process. So now you know which metrics to track and why it's important to track them. I want to talk briefly about what the actual numbers are that you want to be looking for. I'm not going to talk about a specific cost per lead in this video, because a cost per lead is only relevant to the conversion data. What you want to be looking for in the conversion data is, first of all, the pickup rate. You want your pickup rate to be between 60 to 70% minimum. 60 is acceptable, 70% is on the high end. So 60 to 70% of the leads that you've generated, you want them to answer or respond to your messages or calls. Then you want your lead to appointment conversion rate to be between 15 to 20%. Because if it's 5%, your team needs to call and contact 20 people to actually schedule an appointment, which is very inefficient. So the ideal spot we found is between 15 and 20%, and sometimes a bit higher than 20%. But this is what you should aim for at the bare minimum. In terms of conversion from appointment to deal, that's all up to your sales skills and all the things that we've talked about in the winning deals video of this series. But you always want to aim for a minimum conversion of 10% from appointment to deal. And if you combine all of these conversion metrics, there's one metric and one number that is quite normal in real estate. And that means that from all of the leads that you generated, about 1 to 3% actually converts into a deal. So for every 100 leads you generate, you will only close 1 to 3 deals, which is important to know. So you have the right expectations when you generate leads. Of course, this is different for referrals and people from your own network. I'm talking here about implementing marketing and advertising campaigns. So as you can see here at Lead Estate, we've built out a complete tracker that's custom built by us for our clients, where we track all the numbers in real time that we've discussed in this video. As you can see, you have the marketing budget, the cost per lead, the conversion rates, the pickup rates, and the eventual return on investment. And by tracking all of this data in real time, we can provide the ultimate A to Z solution for our clients and optimize the process based on real numbers. As you know, in a previous video, we've talked about hitting your point B, hitting your goals, and then being able to reverse engineer all the sales, all the appointments, all the leads, and all the conversion metrics that you need to hit. So every year you make a projection towards the goal that you want to hit. You set specific conversion numbers and specific targets. And by tracking this data, you can literally see if you're on or off track and where you need to optimize. If you don't track the data in your client acquisition process, you are lost and you will never be able to grow measurably and predictably. And everything you do is based on thoughts and feelings, and that will not scale your real estate business. So if you're not tracking data, or if you're only tracking vanity metrics, make sure that you start implementing this and start tracking this data now. It will not only make a massive impact in the short run, but imagine if you do this for years and years to come. That is how you grow your real estate business. Welcome to step 6 of the growth formula: high standards. I want to tell you something that most marketing agencies will never say to a real estate business owner. Your leads are not the problem. Your ads are not the problem, and your budget is not the problem, or the strategy is not the problem. You are. Now, before you click away this video, hear me out, because this is not an insult. This is actually the most valuable thing anyone in the industry can tell you. Now, let me bring some nuance to this. You are not a problem, or some things are not directly your fault. But as the business owner, you are responsible for solving every single problem in your business. And everything comes down to this: under which standards are you currently operating in your business? High standards or low standards? And where are you accepting low standards from yourself or from your team? So let me give you some examples. A marketing agency that you work with is not getting results. Your team of agents are not following up with leads or updating the CRM system. Some agents are not closing enough deals. You're not tracking your sales data. And you keep saying the same sentence. We should. They should. But as long as these things keep going on, you are accepting that these low standards are normal in your agency or your company. Maybe it was a process that was broken for months, and instead of fixing it, everyone just got used to it and accepted it. Accepting low standards is the biggest reason why you are losing deals and not hitting your revenue goals. At Lead Estate, step 6 of our growth formula is called high standards. And it is not a random concept. Operating according to high standards in your business is a business decision that will change your business forever. And without it, the entire growth formula will not work. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what high standards mean in a real estate business, where low standards are hiding in your processes right now, and how to fix it. So let's get into it. Let me start with a story. I was visiting a potential client at their office, and one of my first questions was, are all of your 5 agents following up perfectly with new leads? And he said, of course not, laughing. And I looked at him and I said, why are you laughing? He's like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, you're laughing because A, you know it's true, but you're also accepting that this is normal within your company. For you, by saying this in the way that you said it, it's normal behavior from your agents to not follow up with every single lead perfectly. Is this high standards or low standards? And he answered, well, low standards. And my answer was, so why are you accepting it? It's your marketing budget that you waste. It's your goals that you sacrifice by not implementing this standard. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. Let me give you an example of one high standard that we implement at Lead Estate. And this actually doesn't have a lot to do with the whole sales process, but has a lot to do with the way that we show up as our team and within our company. And that high standard is everyone is always on time. Of course, something can happen sometimes and you're a bit later, but you will always let the team know that you're 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes later. We do not accept from others that are too late to meetings. If we have a sales meeting with a potential client and that client doesn't show up after 5 minutes without letting us know, we will not work with them because our time is valuable, just like yours. So treat your time like it's valuable. That is a high standard that we have at Lead Estate, and we don't compromise, both for our team, for our clients, and for potential prospects. And this is just one simple, small example of implementing high standards into your business. And there are hundreds of things that you can implement. So on your screen right now, you will see the growth formula. And all the other videos in this series, we've talked about this formula. That every step needs to be implemented to make sure that you actually convert leads into deals and make sure that you get a return on investment. But imagine you have a person or a team member on every step in this process. And each person or team member is responsible for executing this step. You can have implemented this entire process, but you can still not get results by accepting low standards from the people that are responsible in specific steps in this process. So without enforcing high standards, you will not get results with the growth formula. And as you know, every step is connected to the other step. So even if one person is not operating according to protocol or according to the high standards that we've set, it will have an impact on the results of the other team members, which will in return create an accountability process by itself. So how does this accountability process actually work? And how to fix low standards in your company and in your client acquisition process? As we've covered in other videos in this series, the first thing that you need to have is a specific goal, a specific point B. Because how do you know if someone is performing or is on track or off track if you don't have a goal? You can only know if you're on track or off track if you have a specific goal. So that is always the first step. Like we've already done in the first video of this series, is that we want to reverse engineer this goal into specific action steps and specific protocols for every step in the marketing and sales process. And this way, you know exactly what KPIs and what numbers need to be hit in every step of the process. So you've basically broken down your goal or your point B into 6 different steps. And in every step, every team member has specific responsibilities that you can keep them accountable on. So the next step to enforcing high standards within your company is putting the right people on the right responsibilities. You want to put your best follow-up agent on the follow-up process. You want to put your best sales agent on the sales process. You want to put an advertising specialist on your advertising campaigns. And you want to give each one of these people the right responsibilities and the right KPIs to hit. And to know that they are hitting their KPIs, you need to track all the data. So for every step, like we covered in the last video in this series, we need to track the specific KPIs and the data of how these team members are actually performing. And what you need to implement is a weekly meeting where you will look at this data with your entire team and see who is on track or off track. And if someone is off track, you need to dive in deep and make sure that you find out why this person is off track. Because then you know exactly what the reason is as to why you're not hitting your goals and why this person is not performing like they should be performing. And every single weekly sales meeting, you do one thing. You do not accept anything less than the targets that you've set and the responsibilities that they need to execute on. And when someone is off track, you make corrections. But if that person is off track a second week in a row or a third week in a row, or maybe for 2 months, then you maybe have other decisions to make than making corrections in this person's output. Because if someone is not operating according to the standards that you have set for your company, and this might sound harsh, but this person has no place at your company. Because within your company, you have specific protocols and you have specific standards that people need to follow for you to hit your goals. And if you keep accepting and keep accepting and keep accepting low standards, you are compromising on your goal. And you are compromising on the vision for your business and your life. But keep in mind, there's only one way how you can enforce high standards in your team and in your business. It's by living in 100% full integrity with yourself and with the standards that you've set. Because if you are not following the specific high standards that you've set for your company, you have no right to tell your team that they should be following these high standards. You need to lead by example. And if you're not leading by example, you cannot enforce high standards, because your team will say, why do I need to do it if the boss doesn't even do it himself? And this is the most challenging about enforcing high standards, because you actually need to keep yourself accountable. It's not about telling people what to do and applying force to your team members. It's about living aligned with your standards within your company and inspiring others to live aligned with those standards as well. And together, as a team of high standards, you will reach your point B and you will reach your goals. So to end this video and to end this entire series, I have an exercise for you again. First, write down where you're accepting low standards within your company from yourself and your team. So where are you accepting low standards for yourself, things that you should do but you're not doing, and the same goes for your team. Where are you accepting low standards from them? Where are you accepting that they are not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing or what they said they were going to do? And the second thing that I want you to do is I want you to map out how you're going to enforce them in the future and how you're going to enforce them for yourself so you can inspire the rest of the team. After you've done this, I want you to go one step further, and that is by implementing extra standards into your business that, based on data, will have an effect on the end outcome and your ROI and hitting your point B. So to end off this video and to end off this series, the growth formula will massively change your real estate business. But it will only work if you, as the owner or director of the company, will operate within integrity and be 100% responsible for solving the problems in the business. It takes 100% ownership about implementing high standards into your business and living by those standards and operating according to those standards. Because by accepting low standards from both yourself and from your team, you're compromising your goals. Not only in business, but you're compromising the vision that you have for your life. So are you going to compromise on your goals, or are you going to implement and live according to the high standards that are necessary to reach that goal? So this is the end of the entire growth formula series that we've created for you. I hope that I've been able to make as much impact as possible on your business. But as you know, I cannot make any impact without implementation on your side. If you liked what we've talked about, if we made at least a little impact on your business with this growth series, and make sure you click the link somewhere around this video and schedule a free consultation with Lead Estate, where we will take a deep dive into your business and into how the growth formula is actually operating into your business right now, where the obstacles are, where your limiting beliefs are, where you are still having problems in reaching your goals, and where you are still accepting low standards from your team. And together we will create a detailed plan and strategy that will help you go from point A to point B in a measurable and a predictable way. And finally, start scaling your real estate business. So as a free bonus, make sure that you click the link somewhere around this video to apply for our free consultation with our team. And I look forward to seeing you there.